Hey guys, Banana Luck here, and welcome back to the last series of Guild War hero deployments. So today we are talking about fighters and looking at which ones that you should look into deploying. So I think fighters, to be honest, that's probably the highest number of units that we have in here. Yeah, the list just looks way longer than what we see in the rest. So spoiled for choices here, to be honest. There are some really solid epics that you could deploy, and I think it all depends on which factions do you actually have. I think trying to pair them up together, especially if you have nightmare units, I think it makes a lot of sense because you just want to get the faction bonuses going on. But before we do all of that, let's just take a look at fighter deployments because I think that's one thing that I found that some people are still getting it wrong. So here's how I'm doing my fighter deployments. So instead of putting them at the forefront, I always place a defender down instead. So my fighters are doing this instead. But of course, this makes them vulnerable to the exploding bugs that come in. Because the exploding bugs, they actually do like, I think, 1 tower of damage around them. So this makes them susceptible to that, But so far in my defense, because this lineup is quite bursty, those bugs haven't managed to explode yet. They just die before they even reach me. But yeah, I think this is how I would actually suggest putting down placements. I mean, there's no point in placing anyone here, yeah, because your defender is here. And if you do, for example, place Oleg here instead, these two units won't be able to land a hit. So yeah, I think this is the most optimal that we can do, but just make sure that you never, ever place a fighter here because he's not going to be able to take out the monsters. I think that's something that I've seen some people do, and when I see that, I just try to break through their defenses and slowly bring my units through. So that's just in terms of placements. And if you look at what I have set up here, you can see it's like what I mentioned, right? I think when it comes to, lineups, it really depends on what units you have. I think if you have 4 Nightmare units, even if you just have Rough, you don't have Torador, it makes a lot of sense to run them together. And maybe you can do like a Rough, Baron as a defender, and like 2 other Nightmare units. Could be Volca, if let's say you don't have another good legendary fighter. But there's other fighters that you could think of, like Arrogance, Abomination, which is free to everyone, Komodo, which is fusible as well. I think these are the other good contenders if let's say you're running a Nightmare unit. Of course, I have Salazar and all that, so pretty much a no-brainer for me to run these two folks together because they deal an insane amount of damage. But that's for just, the Nightmare units. If we look at other factions, things start to get a bit more interesting. So if we look at the Northern Throne, if let's say you run an Oleg, Isode, what you can run instead is Falchia on the sides and maybe Valkyr at the back of Oleg. Because you do have to recall that Valkyr actually has that skill, right? Where she revives an ally in range and restores 100% of their HP at max level. So if let's say you run her, your Oleg could get a second chance at life or Brokia. If let's say you're running Northern Keep. So I think Valkyra is really underrated. I think lots of people don't really use her. They say like, oh, she's okay-ish fighter. She does magic damage, so she's good for Gear Rate 1. But I think Guild War, because of this revival thing that she does, I think that makes her a much more valuable asset than anyone else. I mean, essentially, if you have Valkyra build up and you have a defender at the front, you're basically running a 6-unit team, right? Because your defender is going to revive again for sure. So Valkyra is a noteworthy, unit. And don't forget, Valkyra can also attack air units. Is it here? Or does she just attack air units no matter what? Let's see. Yeah, I don't see it mentioned anywhere, but I'm not sure if Valkyra only attacks air units when she does her ultimate. But yeah, I think all in all, Valkyra is able to hit air units, so I think it just makes sense to actually deploy her if you're running a northern team and you don't have any other air units in the northern faction. So I've seen people do it with great success. They do a Shamir with a Valkyra, so that makes it so that even if you have air units and Valkyra's out is not out, Shamir will slow them long enough for your Valkyra to actually get her out of. So I think that's just a really neat thing to have. And the other unit, obviously, that in the northern faction that lots of people might have put for is Falshia. I think she works really well just in terms of the mix of damage that she does. She does true damage, magic damage, and physical damage. So regardless of the units that you send out, Falshia is going to work really well. So I think she's just all out good single DPS, but because of her tower range, you're going to be putting her on the side, like what I did with Salazar, as well as Valeria. But Valkyra, you can put her just right behind your Oleg. And I think the other good unit that's very top tier is Adir. Obviously, you can see over here, she has that insane tower range and she does multi-target attack, so really good for AoE stuff. Not sure if she does clear air units. I mean, I haven't seen anyone use her yet, and most people probably don't have her as well, but if you do have her, yeah, she's absolutely a top tier unit to use. So that's for the northern faction. I think there's not much other people that are noteworthy to talk about. And if we look at Piercer factions then, I think Espan, lots of people shit on him, saying that not that nice of a unit, but I think in faction trials where if you need an air attack unit and you don't have one, Espan actually does quite decent, because you can see that in his talent, first one for example, after every 2 basics attack, does piercing javelin and airborne units take 150% more damage from this. And yeah, if you can see his ultimate as well, that is extra 700% damage to airborne units. So I think that is just really neat, and I think lots of people underestimate how good he can actually be, especially against an airborne team. And if you have a Lunaria or Araka, that improves his range as well, so it makes it even more viable for you to run Espan in your Guild War faction trials. And yeah, I think if you do have Valkyra, Espan is a really good option to put behind because of the extra range that it does. And other units that you can place behind as well are like Zilitu, Arrogance with the insane range that they have, Adir that we've already mentioned, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it for units that you can run in the back. So I think when it comes to fighters, we're really spoiled for choices, but it really depends on what you have. And what I'll recommend that you try to do is, if let's say you're lucky as me, you have Zilitu or Arrogance, you can do this as well. Defender at the front, and then a long range fighter at the back. So you don't have to fear about the exploding bugs, and at the same time, you can place your defender 1 tile to the front, place your healer at the side here, but still be able to dish out damage. So if any of the exploding bugs do come through, they will just explode here and won't deal damage to your Eloin, Vienna, or your fighters at the back. So that's really nice. And I think this also just gives you more space. Things are not as crowded around, so units could still die in between this tile before they actually reach your Zilitu and bypass her. So I think, yeah, that's where I'll place my long-range fighters. But if let's say you don't have any one of the long-range fighters, then what you will have to do is instead over here, look at my first garrison team. This is what you have to do instead. So defender at the front, fighters at the side. I think this is going to be the case because lots of the fighters are 2 tile. Think of Falshia, Kineza, and Abomination, Rough. All these units are going to be at the side. And never ever place your fighters at the front here, defending, because that's not their job. They are not defenders, as per the name. So always place your fighters at the side. I mean, this is how I found success so far. most of the teams that I fought against that deployed fighters at the front, they just get wiped out by the DPS that I put out with my monsters instead, the demon soldiers. So that's it for fighters. I think we're really spoiled for choices. So you probably have a few good fighters that you can run. So yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you found the content useful, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down in the comment section if you have any questions. But good luck in your guild wars, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.